A museum devoted to Jane Austen has sparked fury by announcing plans to subject the author to a historical interrogation over alleged links to the slave trade. Tell me more.
Well, Mark, this is another crazy day in the woke world. So, the Jane Austen Museum is going to launch an interrogation into the author's love for drinking tea, wearing cotton, and having sugar with her meals because of the connection allegedly to slavery. So they've gone completely bonkers. The woman actually in charge of the museum, Lizzie Dunford, she's the museum director, says that the links will be highlighted. So when you walk in, you imagine you're going in, you're thinking, I'm going to see stuff about Pride and Prejudice and Mansfield Park and Emma, and then you're going to be greeted with a sign, with a BLM fist raised to it. And it's going to just basically describe what they think she's guilty of.
Indeed, the historical revisionists are going after everyone. It's Jane Austen. I'm not sure who's going to be next. Mozart, Shakespeare, the list is endless.
Absolutely. Shakespeare, Othello, he's going to get it. Definitely. It'll be like, oh no, we can't go there. It's very dodgy. I mean, you know what? I was in case anyone thinks that I'm just highbrow, I was watching. I don't know if you know that wonderful film Footloose.
Classic.
With Kevin Bacon. Classic.
An 80s classic.
It's an 80s classic. I love it. I watch it very often and I dance around my living room. But anyway, enough of my private life. But in that, I don't know if you remember the preacher, played by John Lithgow.
Yeah.
He's in church having an argument with his daughter. And then somebody comes running in and says, Reverend, there's people at the library and they're burning books. And so he goes, oh, right. And so he goes running and then he sees people just piling books into a bin. And he says, stop now. The devil doesn't live in the books. He lives in here. And I thought that is what we need to know, is that the Jane, it's what you think about life and people's race and color and history. The bad feelings aren't in the books. They're in there.
Indeed, it's very important. It's very important to look at history and not make the same mistakes going forward. And slavery is a huge scar on the human story, clearly, Abi. But where does this stop? I mean, you're just going to cancel everything sort of pre-Charles Dickens if you're not careful.
Yeah, exactly. It's that's exactly right. It's the slippery slope syndrome. These people are, and also it's not about teaching children balanced history. This is we've got to make this really clear. This is about power, and it's about it's an agenda. And also, Jane Austen was an abolitionist in Mansfield Park. Fanny Price. I've been reminding myself. I was in Mansfield Park at Bristol Old Vic. I remember it well. I was a maid. But anyway, enough of my
typecasting.
Typecasting. Oh, Miss Price, let me just fix you a cup of tea. But in that, Fanny Price very, stridently is aware that that this is going on, this slavery, and she doesn't approve of it. The same in Emma. She's quite categorical about that. And in Persuasion, there's a support of the Royal Navy, who, of course, as we all know, Mark, ended slavery in the Abolition of Slavery Act in 1807.
Indeed.
Who's been doing her research?
You have also 5 stars.
And one final thing, just in case anyone thinks that Jane Austen is, we're sort of making excuses. There's a quote from Mansfield Park, which is direct quote from Fanny Price: "To be the friend of the poor and the oppressed, nothing could be more grateful to her." So Jane Austen was not somebody who just sort of blithely sort of went, "Oh, it's just slavery," And also slavery today. What about where do these woke idiots think their mobile phone batteries come from? The cobalt in the lithium batteries is mined in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So I tell you what, Lizzie, whatever your name is, why don't you go over there and have a little word with all the cobalt miners?
Too right. Words of wisdom as always. Meanwhile, a world-renowned Russian ballet dancer has blamed cancel culture for the sad death of a fellow choreographer who died suddenly, aged 35, a year after he was suspended from the Royal Ballet amid allegations of inappropriate behaviour. An investigation was conducted. He was found not guilty, and yet still he was cancelled.
Very sad, Mark. I mean, I wasn't aware of this story. I've been reading up on it, obviously. He died on Saturday. Bless him, Liam Scarlett. Glittering career behind him. He was age 35, everybody. We don't know the cause of death as yet, so I'm not going to speculate. But he was compared to Kenneth Macmillan, the great choreographer. He had a glittering career ahead of him. There were allegations made of sexual misconduct. He was, and I emphasize this very clearly, cleared of all that by an independent investigation, and still he was dropped by the Royal Opera House, where the Royal Ballet, the home of the Royal Ballet, and I think it was a day before his death, the Royal Danish Theatre dropped all his performances of Frankenstein. You know, I mean, the woke actually, ironically, is the Frankenstein monster. It's like literally, don't think of it as some cuddly creature, you know, who's sort of like, oh, like Oliver Dowden saying, oh, it's a bit of a phase, you know, it's in the zeitgeist. No, these people they're coming to get everybody, and then once they finish with them, well, they'll come for you.
It shows how cruel and heartless it is, because this person obviously in the end had no case to answer, but just the whiff of scandal was enough to make these woke organisations make a unilateral decision that would destroy this man's career.
Absolutely. It's mob rule, you know. I mean, it literally is. Think of this as well, not in this country yet, but the metaphorical torches. You know, the holding the torches, going after somebody, and quite literally destroying them without any. You know, something came to mind. Sorry if it's a little bits of, you know, Sunday evening show vibe, but you know, he who is without sin cast the first stone. There seems to be a lot of people with a lot of rocks to throw, sharp, heavy items that are destroying young anyone, you know. But I mean, this man, particularly 35 years old, great career ahead of him, nobody found anything untoward, you know, improper, and they should be ashamed of themselves. And I'm not going to go to the Royal Opera House ever again.